How are you, Mike?
Hi, Heather. I am good. And yourself?
Doing good. It's really good to see you.
It's a pleasure to see you as always.
Thank you. How have you been? What's new? Anything new to discuss?
Well, let's see. The last live stream was just 2 weeks ago,
Mhm.
and I have really done nothing that interesting since, I'm sad to say. The weather has been kind of lousy here in Vegas, and
What's it?
Red Rock is all covered in snow and ice.
Yeah.
I did go snowshoeing one day, and I went to Laughlin over the weekend.
Hmm.
Haven't been there in a long time. And I explored a local cave, but yeah, quiet 2 weeks for the wizard.
That's that sounds nice. Do you snow ski or do you snowboard?
I snow ski.
Awesome. Have you ever tried snowboarding?
No, when I learned how to ski, there was practically no such thing as a snowboard. So I did what everyone else did, and I am too old to change my spots or however the expression goes. But I am sticking with skiing, and I don't want to be one of these people that are laying all over the top of the ski lift trying to put their snowboard on.
You say you're too old to snowboard, but here you are climbing mountains, and there are 30-year-olds that couldn't climb mountains like how you do it. So you are pretty amazing. You can't just
Well,
say, "Oh, you can't just say, "Oh, it's the age," and then use that as an excuse.
Well, thank you for the compliment. I would like to think that I'm young in spirit in terms of being adventurous, but I'm old in that I am kind of set in my ways, and I already know how to ski. I'm not going to, I'm only going to live, like 25 more years. So,
I
why
don't know.
take up snowboarding?
With
It's,
the way you exercise, I wouldn't be surprised if you were 120.
that might break a record for a man. But I've probably said this before, but I absolutely have to make it to 80 because there's going to be a total eclipse of the sun running through the United States, including northern Nevada, in the year 2045. This is not to be confused with the one next year. I'm looking forward to that one too. But after the 2024 one, you got to wait all the way to 2045. And I am going
Wow.
to make it.
So
Mark my words.
next year when you do that, do you already have it all situated? Because I know that's really hard to get the motel and get the
Yeah.
plans in place.
Okay. I've spoken about this many times on my forum, but the total eclipse is going to be April 8th, 2024. Mark it on your calendar right now. April 8th, 2024. You have to be there. The closest place to Las Vegas to see it is going to be Waco, Texas. And it's going to cut through Mexico, through Texas, and it's going to go northeast up through Maine and then over the Atlantic Ocean. But between the probability of clear skies and convenience, Texas is the way to go for me. And Waco is close to Dallas, so I figure I'll fly to Dallas and then stay somewhere in Waco.
Okay, sounds like so much fun. I envy you.
Well, you should go too.
Maybe.
All right, we have a
So
lot to cover today, so let's.
yes,
I want to get to the magic trick of the show.
yay! We
And
get a
this is
magic
one of
trick.
my favorites. This one you can do with just a piece of paper and a pen, and it's really easy to do, and most people have no idea how you did it. So you start by getting 9 pieces of paper, and you write down the numbers from 1 to 10. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and be sure to do a dash under the 6 and the 9. 7, 8, and 9. And now I'm going to make a prediction, and I'm going to do this. I don't want the camera to see it. Okay, so Let me make sure you guys can see what you're supposed to. Okay, see this right here? On the other side is my prediction. And I'm going to leave that in plain view the whole time. So again, you can see I wrote down the numbers from 1 to 9 here. And let's just put these in 3 random piles. Okay. And now I'm going to need 2 volunteers from the audience.
Ooh.
Let's call the pile on my left, pile 1, pile 2, and pile 3. I want anyone in the peanut gallery to pick a number between 1 and 3.
Okay, so first person that puts up that number, that's the number we're going to use. And while we're waiting, if you have any questions for the wizard, please put them in the chat and we will get to them in the order that they are received.
Okay, Big D.
So Wild Foodie Tours picked 3, and it looks like they're first.
Okay. Okay, since Wild Foodie Tours went first, okay, so this was 1, this was 2, this was 3. So nobody picked 1, so I'm just going to get rid of these. Okay, Wild Foodie Tours was first. So here are Wild Foodie Tours numbers, 2, 4, and 9. Wild Foodie, I want you to state these numbers in any order you wish, and I'm going to write them down in the order that you say them from top to bottom.
And what numbers are they again?
2, 4, and 9.
Okay, we could kind of see half of the numbers. They're out of the...
I know this lighting is terrible. Oh, here we go.
There we go, 2, 4, and 9. So Wild Foodie Tours, please give us those numbers in any order you wish, and we will use those.
Okay, and Big D, you're going to be next. So get ready.
Okay. And while we're waiting for Wild Foodie Tours, oh, there we go.
Okay.
Wild Foodie Tours says 4,
4,
9, and 2.
Okay, we can remove these. So Big D, your numbers are 7, 5, and 3. In any order you wish, I'm sorry, say those 3 numbers, 7, 5, and 3.
Okay, so you are next, Big D. And Big D's first number is 5.
Mm-hmm.
The second number is... We need them in order, Big D. So 5, and then pick 7, 3, or 5, 3, 7. Let us know. But they have to be in order.
Yeah,
and while we're waiting,
7, 5, and 3.
Yes. And
So
while
I
we're waiting,
that you wanted the 5 first. What comes next? 3 or 7?
Okay,
there we go.
7 is next, and then 3.
Okay, so we have. Let's make 2-digit numbers out of these. I don't know if you can see this. I should have done this with my. Let me trace over this with the Sharpie. Okay, there we go. I should have done this all along. So we have 3 numbers here: 45, 97, and 23. Can somebody in the peanut gallery please add these numbers together? 45, 97, and 23.
Okay, so whoever is the first person to add those numbers together, please put it in the chat. And it's one number we're looking for, right?
Yep, one.
Okay.
Just one number.
Is that 165?
Yes, it is.
Cool.
And remember my prediction right here? Let's have a look at it.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Works every time.
How did you do that?
I will explain that at the end of the show. For now, I'll give you a little hint. It's very mathematical. Easy to do, works every time. You don't need special equipment. It's such a good magic trick. You guys, I'm really giving you a treat on this one. This is the best one I've revealed so far.
So remember to stay until the end of the show so you could see how that trick was done. Again, please put in your questions for Mike so we could get them in the order that they are received. And do you have any trivia for us today?
Yes. In celebration of Chinese New Year, we are going to have trivia about rabbits. Why rabbits, you might ask? It's because this is the year of the rabbit coming up.
Yay! I love Lunar New Year. It's the best. It's one of my favorite holidays.
I call it Chinese New Year.
You are such a troll.
And they call it Lunar New Year because it always happens on a new moon.
Yes, and that's why the date changes. So
you're absolutely right.
Do you want to do the first question and then we'll get to these?
One more thing. I want to give a quick movie review, which I haven't done in a long time. So I just saw the movie Megan, and the E is written like a 3. So this is a movie. The premise of the movie is there is a toy company that makes toy robots. And their initial product was, I guess, very successful. It was kind of like a Furby, but it was like the size of a basketball. And it talked, and it was somewhat interactive, but it was kind of crude. And another company basically ripped off the idea and sold them for much less. So this company was telling their engineers, look, we need to come up. We either need to lower the cost again on our main product or come up with something brand new that everyone must buy. And meanwhile, the niece of, shall we say, the main scientist at this company is involved in a car accident, and her parents are killed. And suddenly the courts decide that to let the aunt at the toy company temporarily take custody until they figure out a permanent solution for who should get custody of this 10-year-old girl. So this engineer is like under a ton of pressure to create a new robot, while suddenly her niece she has to take care of a niece who's still grieving her dead parents. So what she does to kill 2 birds with 1 stone is she did have a robot, but it wasn't ready for, shall we say, for sale to the general public yet. It still needed a lot of testing. So she decided to keep her niece busy with this robot she was developing. And the robot, coincidentally, was also the size of a 10-year-old girl. So she introduces them, and initially it goes really well. And they program the robot that her primary objective, as it's said in the movie, is to protect Megan, the real girl, from any harm, both physical and mental. And shall we say it goes well at first, but the robot is very serious about her objective. And there's one scene where there is a dog that bites the girl, and there's another scene where a bully threatens the girl, and the robot, shall we say, protects the girl. I don't want to take it too far, but she does it in a violent way against those that would do her harm. And maybe I shouldn't take it this far, but the engineer realizes that these 2 incidents are probably related, and maybe it's the robot who did it. And the robot predicts that the engineer is going to shut her down, and she can't protect Megan. Excuse me, I've got the names reversed. The name of the robot is Megan. She can't protect the real girl if she's shut down. So she does what she needs to do to not get shut down. And that's as far as I'm going to take it. But did I like this movie? Yes, absolutely. I loved it. This is a great popcorn movie. Don't go in there taking it too seriously. There's a lot of humor to it. Parts of it were, if you go in there with the right attitude that it's a story and it's supposed to be fun, I think you'll love it. If you're expecting a Stanley Kubrick movie, you'll probably find fault in it and it'll ruin the experience. So there you go. Big 2 thumbs up for me for the movie Megan.
Nice. Now, was the ending satisfying? You don't have to tell what happened at the ending.
Okay,
Just
I
let
was
me know if it's
satisfied with it.
satisfying.
I was
Okay.
satisfied with it. I thought it was a good ending in that I enjoyed it. And it left it wide open for a sequel. I'll just say
cool.
that. And it did it in what I thought was a very clever way.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I will say that I could nitpick things that maybe some things didn't quite make sense in the movie, but this is just one of those times um, to just sit back and enjoy it like a magic show. Don't go in there trying to figure out everything and trying to find fault in it. Just enjoy it.
Suspend disbelief.
Yep, and I'll be the first to admit that when I see things in a movie that don't make logical sense to me, it bothers me. But this movie was not that bad in this way. For example, at the end of Titanic, I thought both Rose and Jack could have fit on that piece of wood.
Do you
He
know
should
that
have at
James
least tried
Cameron?
to get on it. But
Did you know James
a movie
Cameron
that took
actually?
itself very seriously, and therefore I think opens itself up to a high level of communication. Megan, I think, is more of just a fun movie, and appreciate it for what it is.
Did you know James Cameron debunked that myth that both Jack and Rose could fit on the board?
Oh, and how did he do that?
I will send you the link.
Okay, I
Cool.
look forward to that because, I mean, if he got like a swimming pool and a piece of wood the same size and showed that two people couldn't get on it, sure, I'll be the first to admit he was right, but I want to see it.
Now, there's a great question to ask that goes with the topic that we're talking about. Today is National Popcorn Day. How do you like your popcorn flavored?
Well, that is just, I forgot about that. It's just a coincidence that here I was promoting popcorn. I like my popcorn popped in oil as opposed to microwaved or in an air popper. And I like light on the butter, maybe even no butter at all, because I think the oil is flavoring, and lightly salted, and no fancy stuff like caramel or anything like that.
Okay, so you actually do it on the stove. You do it like the
Yep.
old-fashioned way.
Yep, I do it the old-fashioned way. I put oil in a pan and pop it that way. And
Nice.
Mrs. Wizard hates it when I do that because she says it stinks up the whole house and I get oil everywhere. But that's how I do it.
Okay. And I use the air popper. I have an old-fashioned air popper. I hate using the microwave bags. I can't stand that stuff. So I get the kernels and then just do it in the air popper. And then I do like butter and salt, and that's it. And I'm very happy with that.
And gosh, it's already 17 minutes. I didn't even ask the first trivia question yet.
Let's do that.
Okay, what is the name of... No, let me rephrase it. In 1942, there was a Disney movie released that had a rabbit in it. What was the name of the movie and what was the name of the rabbit?
Okay, so if you guys know the answer to that, put that in the chat. And I put in a guess on our private chat. Let me know if I'm correct, because I actually think I might be.
Wrong.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't that. That's good to know. So while we are waiting for your answers, we are going to go to some gambling questions. And our first one is from Paul. Paul says, what is the typical house edge on video keno in Vegas? And how does that compare to a typical slot of the same denomination?
Good question. I would say the typical house edge in video keno is about 8 to 10%, which is about the same as slot machines of the same denomination. So pretty simple answer there. And if I may give a little plug, where is my book? And by the way, the third edition is coming out very soon. But I have in here all these tables for video keno. For example, let's say, and this is just for regular keno. Let's say you find a pick 8, and it follows the 1, 2, 6, 24, 100, 500 pay table. This shows you the return is exactly 91.00%. And so you can take my book, look at the pay table, and it will tell you what the return is exactly. And I do it for lots of other games as well. You know, the one I just said may not have been for spot keno. I'm not sure what it was, but I cover regular spot keno, caveman keno, Cleopatra keno, caveman keno plus, Cleopatra keno, extra draw keno, power keno, triple power, and triple power keno. So I'm very proud of my keno treatment in my book.
And they can buy that on Amazon if they want to get your book?
Yep. To be honest, I hear it's sold out right now. That's the reason we kind of pushed out the third printing. But the third edition is going to have all the same video keno material.
And when do you expect the third edition to be out?
Yeah, that's kind of the dreaded question, but it is truly done and off my desk, and it's in the hands of Huntington Press. And I'm pretty sure it's just in the hands of the actual company that physically makes the book. But I'm hoping by the end of February.
Okay, that would be awesome.
It's out when it's out. One day I'll get a call and say, Mike, we have 50 boxes of your book. Come sign some.
So we'll probably hear about it on our next live stream or two, and then people could go and they could buy the new third edition.
Yep.
Sounds good.
And by the way, the audience may wonder what's different about the third edition. The main difference is that I have a really good chapter on slot machines, especially accumulation slots that can have a player advantage, like Golden Egypt and Cashman Bingo, things like that, where the player vests into a bonus round. And if the last player left it close to a bonus, it's a great time to swoop in and play it until the bonus hits, and then leave it in a negative state.
Nice. So if you're interested in that, definitely get his book and check that out.
Thank you.
You're
okay. So the question again was, in 1942, Disney came out with a movie that had a rabbit. What's the name of the movie and what's the name of the rabbit?
Was it Roger Rabbit?
No, that was way after 1942.
How about Thumper?
Thumper is the name of the rabbit.
Ooh.
So therefore the movie would be
Bambi.
Yay! All right.
Good job, Jane.
Half a point. Okay, question number 2 about rabbits. Which one should I do? In Alice in Wonderland, what does the white rabbit wear?
Okay, so this one's an easy one. Put your answer in the chat. And our next question comes from, this one is from Robert. In counting systems such as Ace 5, and how they have a player's edge, how can the chance of ruin be over 50%? I saw a simulation posted that showed a 80% chance of ruin with a specific bankroll.
Yeah, it's really quite simple. Is let's say that the table minimum is 25 and you only walk in there with $200.
Mm-hmm.
Even with an advantage, your bankroll is going to go up and down like a roller coaster. But if you lose that full $200, you are done, and you will be ruined. So the less money you have, the greater the chance of ruin. So It just goes to show to not overbet your bankroll. So blackjack is a very thin advantage, and you need a huge bankroll to survive the ups and downs.
Now, I think we have time for one more question.
Okay.
Do you think casinos are capable of tweaking slot vulnerable machines? There are machines that I used to make money on, but I struggle to make a profit on now.
My answer there is no. I know that we've talked about server-based slots before, where at some casinos it's possible for the casino to tighten or loosen a slot machine or video poker game remotely. But here in Nevada, that can't be done unless the machine has not been played for a certain period of time, like 10 minutes. But I assume what you're saying is if the machine is in a positive state, just make it into a negative state somehow. No, I've never heard of that. I think it would violate gaming regulations, at least here in Nevada. And I could see some places like cruise ships, like maybe if you unplug it and plug it back in, maybe it'll refresh to some initial bad state. I do know a lot of cruise ships just basically pocket all the progressive money and reset them at the minimums with each new cruise, which I think is very unethical, but they're allowed to do that. But no, I have not heard of this with vulturable machines. And that is, as far as why you're not making money, yeah, it could, I would say it suggests to you that it's probably just bad luck.
Okay, so we have a couple answers to the trivia. Dalbrickson says, was it a waistcoat?
That's one of the things I'm looking for.
And are you looking for two answers or one answer?
Two answers.
In that case, Yes Note says a vest and a pocket watch.
That's right. A waistcoat
Very good.
and pocket watch. That's what I was looking for. So good job. The next question is, which children's book contains the line, and I quote, "Generally, by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off and your eyes drop out and you get loose in the joints and very shabby."
Okay, so if you know the answer, put that in the chat. I think I already did that answer in the private
what you
chat.
said before is the answer to this question.
Yeah. Okay.
It was on Jeopardy recently. That's why I thought of it.
Okay. At least I got one of them. Okay, so our next casino question, while we're waiting for you guys to answer that, is from Jean. And Jean says, Mike, when you play table games and tournaments, do you use any particular betting method, or do you just make bets with the lowest house edge based on the game and circumstances?
A good question. I could talk about this all day long. The key to playing table game tournaments is you're playing against the other players, not against the dealer. So the game that you're playing, usually you're forced to play a particular game. In fact, all the time, I would say. So let's say it's a baccarat tournament, for example. You're not going to see me betting the banker because it's a lower house advantage than the player, because that difference of 0.2% is really negligible to strategy against playing against the other players. And as an example, if you are behind, it's better to bet the opposite way of the top player at the table. For example, if the top player makes a big bet on banker, then you should make a big bet on player. It's what's called trying to swing him. And the opposite is true. If you are the leader at the table and you get to act last, and your next biggest competitor bets big on, say, the player, then you should bet on the player as well to maintain that lead over him. So in tournaments, you got to be aggressive, and you know, of course, you're not going to win every time, but don't waste your ammunition. You should either win or go bust trying. To have money on the table at the end of it, but not win, is just wasted ammunition in a war. So that is the real executive summary. But again, I could talk about table game tournament all day long. Strategy.
I love it. Do you think you're up for one more gambling question, or should we see what people's answers are?
Let's see what people's answers are.
Okay, Wolf says Velveteen.
The answer, I'll give half credit for that. The answer is the Velveteen Rabbit.
Ooh.
Good job, Jean.
Very nice.
Okay, next question. So when I was growing up, there were a lot of commercials for Trix cereal where the rabbit would try to steal the cereal or trick the kids into giving him their cereal, but something would always go wrong and he would get exposed, to which the kids would say what?
So if you know, put the answer in the chat. And while we are waiting, this is a comment, not a question, from Christopher. Thank you for all of the knowledge and the fun hiking videos. I love the summits you conquer. You are bomb diggity for sure.
Thanks, Christopher. I appreciate the compliment.
And then our next question comes from Dalbrickson. Dumb idea I just had. For the eclipse, with all the hotels and RV rentals fully booked, what if you hired a boat? The eclipse would go over the water too.
That's not a bad idea. And you could do that. I think you would need to do that either in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Mexico or the Atlantic off the coast of Maine. But yeah, that's just an idea. I tend to think boat rentals might get expensive too.
Unless you had a boat.
Yeah, I don't have one, unfortunately. But let me tell you this. Most hotels don't take reservations until a year in advance. So on April 8th of this year, maybe even April 7th, that is the time to start trying to book rooms. And I would do it at 12:01 a.m. to make sure that to get one, because I think, much like Burning Man, I think they're going to sell out in minutes, and it's going to be tough to get through.
Yeah.
And I will remind you guys of that as the big day gets near. But remember that April 8th, 2023 is when you should be booking your hotel room.
Definitely. We'll do one more question since this one is a quick one. Has the wizard ever visited any casinos in London, England?
Yes. I know I went to kind of a fancy schmancy one near Buckingham Palace. And I went to one that was connected to a shopping center. And I went to another one that was more for the kind of the common man, and it was near the downtown area. And you might ask, what were my thoughts? I wasn't crazy about the fancy schmancy one. You had to have a membership to get in and be well dressed and everything. And somehow they let me in anyway. And the one in the shopping mall was pretty nice. But my favorite was the one that was right there in downtown, and it wasn't that big, but it was friendly, and it was kind of classy, but yeah. Oh wait, and there was another one I went to near the Piccadilly Circus. It might have been Oxford Circus, but I think it was Piccadilly. In fact, I might have been to two there. Yeah. But in general, the casinos in London are smaller than what you see in Vegas, and there isn't much to do besides gambling. But nevertheless, I like them much more than the casinos in continental Europe, where there's usually one casino that has a monopoly for a big city like Brussels or Amsterdam or Barcelona. There's at least some competition, which does lead to a better time. So
okay.
That's my quick answer to that one.
Awesome. Now let's see what people said for the answer to the trivia question. Wolf says, silly rabbit, tricks are for kids.
That's absolutely right. Good job, Wolf.
Hey, very nice.
All right. Next question. Jimmy Stewart starred in a 1950 movie about an invisible rabbit. What was the title of that movie?
Okay, so if you guys know the answer to that, put that in the chat. While we are waiting, we will go to another gambling question. Remember, please submit your gambling questions for Mike so he can answer them, and we will answer those in the order that they are received. Now, our next gambling question comes from Roll Tide. What is your opinion of the buy 212 bet on Crapless craps? Vig on win only.
I love it. And I suspect you knew I might say that. But the lowest house advantage in Las Vegas on a game that requires no skill and no supplemental wager is buying the 2 and the 12 in crapless craps at casinos where you only have to pay the commission on the win. And that results in a house advantage of, it should be 1/7 of 5%. I'm getting 0.71%. Maybe someone can check my site to make sure that's right. But 0.7% is a nice low house advantage. And again, it's not like the odds in craps where you have to make some other bet that does carry a house advantage. This you can make all by itself. Now you might be asking which casinos only charge the VIG on a win on those bets. That would be, to the best of my knowledge, Resorts World and all the MGM properties. So very good question.
Awesome. Now, let's see if any of you have an answer to that trivia question.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Harvey?
Yes, it is. Harvey, Mo the cat with another point.
Good job.
Okay, next question. What is the name of former Vice President Michael Pence's pet rabbit?
Oh, I didn't know you had a pet rabbit.
You might think, how would anyone know that? But he wrote a book about this rabbit, and then somebody else wrote kind of a satirical book about the first book. And I understand they're both best-selling books. So that is how someone might just know the answer to this.
Very cool. And while we are waiting, put that in the chat. And our next question comes from... Okay, I think this is a question. It might be a statement. Yes notes. I was thinking the slot manufacturers may have tweaked their games to make them less of a variable state while retaining the same RTP. So this was
anything's possible, but I have not heard this before. And I know a lot of slot vultures out there. I've never heard anyone complain about this, but it's not easy to just tweak a slot machine. These things, a lot of programming goes into them. And, you can't, it's not like the slot director can just change the code himself. No, it needs to be a whole, approved variant of the game.
Yeah.
Now,
and then
I'll say that casino personnel, especially slot managers, are starting to get kind of annoyed with all the slot vultures walking around the casino and just pressing buttons and basically just sucking money out of the hands of their legitimate players. So an action has been taken against some of these players, but tweaking the games, I don't think is how they're responding.
Casinos are really taking legal action against slot vultures?
They're not taking legal action. They can just kick them out.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant legal action. Okay, so our next question comes from Rodney. The slot VP machines seem to reject far fewer bills than the regular vending machines. Are slot VP machines far superior or just more willing to accept questionable bills?
Yeah, that is true. That if you want to buy a Coke, you might have to shove 5 bills in there before the machine finds one to its liking. Where with a slot machine, bing, it accepts a bill like 99% of the time. And I think it's because the bill readers in slot machines are just simply much better. And it's a very important component to the machine. The casinos don't want to make it difficult for you to put money in it. And whereas I think on a Coke machine, that's going to show a much smaller profit. Therefore, they're not going to invest as much money in good quality parts into that machine. So that is my theory.
Okay, awesome. Okay, let's see if you guys have an answer to the trivia question. Is it Marlon Bundo?
Yes, it is. Candy Pinky, good job. And by the way, rabbits was the topic of my newsletter today. So if you already read that, please recuse yourself.
Okay.
Okay. Next question. Okay, of all the characters in the Winnie the Pooh 100 Acre Wood anthology, which character I'm kind of giving it away. Let me go to another one. I was going to say who doesn't Winnie the Pooh like, but it's rabbit because it's a trivia quiz about rabbits. Okay. Okay, so when Bugs Bunny would get lost, usually it was because he took a wrong left turn where?
Okay, so if you guys know the answer, put that in the chat. And our next gambling question comes from Mike Fixes Things. What house edge does a casino want from a brand new table game? What percentage is too high and what's too low?
I'm curious where your flag is from there, Mike. I know that it's looks like the Canadian flag, but instead it's yellow and blue, whereas the real Canadian flag is white and red. So let me know in the comments. I have a question for you. Okay, but what percent do casinos like from a brand new table game? I would say they probably like something around 5%. And the side bet's probably around 10. Now, if it's a blackjack variant, they're probably going to have to come down on that a little bit because players are just used to a lower house edge in blackjack games. But if it's something that's a poker variant or something that's totally off the wall, I think they're going to want it to be about 5%.
Can I add my 2 cents on this one?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. I typically tell my clients that the casinos like between 1% and 4%. If you can do between 4% and 7%, but if you go higher than 7%, the casinos are less likely to want to have that game in their casinos since it's more volatility. And for blackjack games, it's usually between a 1% to 2% range.
Okay. And my answer is based on a limited sample size, but I've heard the story many times where a game inventor got his game into the casino, but the casino demanded they make the rules more stingy because they wanted to see a higher house advantage.
Okay. And every casino is different too. They
Yeah.
work with the inventors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Our next question is from Miami Boy. Is there an official strategy for hearts in terms of passing the queen or attempting to run the deck?
I love the game Hearts. I wish I could find 3 people that knew how to play it, so I could play it again. But when I lived in Baltimore, I played that a lot. And I just love sticking people with the Queen of Spades. But yeah, my short answer to this one is I don't know. I just play the game based on feel, and I haven't played it much lately. So yeah, I have no basic strategy to give you for that, unfortunately.
Okay. And then again, if you guys have any questions you want to ask Mike, please put it in the chat. We'll probably be able to get to it before the end of the night, but only if you put it in now. And then we have a few answers to the trivia questions. Is it to the Carrot Patch?
Nope.
And how about Albuquerque?
It
I
is
think that's
Albuquerque.
okay.
Yes, because Bugs Bunny would like to tunnel under the ground, and he would always make a wrong left turn in Albuquerque and end up in Egypt or Hawaii or somewhere like that, somewhere
Okay.
that he wasn't intending to go. And then all kinds of adventures and silliness would ensue.
Now, before we ask the next trivia question, Candy Pinky says that they love to play hearts as well. And Mike Fixes Things says it's the Ukrainian Canadian flag.
All right.
Okay, so what's our next trivia?
The next one, how about... Okay, according to the Jefferson Airplane song White Rabbit, which chess piece talks backwards?
Okay, so if you know, put that in the chat. Isn't there a few that go backwards?
Only one talks backwards.
Oh,
The
okay.
other one stands on its head, and they all generally get up and tell you where to go, but only one of them talks backwards.
Very interesting. So if you know the answer, put it in the chat. And our next one is a statement from Baccarat Kingmaker. And he basically said, the best of the best master is Guru Shackelford.
Oh, well, thank you. You guys are doing a good job buttering me up today. Compliment.
And then our next casino question comes from Stefan. Is poker different to most casino games in that you can be profitable over the long term if you're skilled enough?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's no big secret that the best of poker players can beat the rake and make a living doing so. Not very many, but poker is definitely a game of skill, and as opposed to games like roulette, that you can't beat it without cheating or some kind of I can't even think of an advantage play in roulette. But there are ways of cheating at it. So yeah, simple answer there.
Okay. And then we have one more casino question. What makes a slot vulture? And this is from Candy Pinky.
Okay, so a real vulture is a bird that goes around looking for dead animals on the ground and then picks at the meat. So they don't have to be the one to put up the fight to kill this animal. They are just happy to get the leftovers easily and go on their merry way. Much like a slot machine vulture is looking for a machine left in a good state by somebody else. They want somebody else to do the dirty work. And so they wander around the casino looking at screens and pressing buttons to look, and they know what to look for. And they walk around until they find a machine, and this might be only like one machine in 100, that is left in a positive state, and then they quickly play it. And then once they get their bonus or whatever, then they get up and look for the next game. So they're called vultures because because it's like there's swirling around the air looking for a dead animal. Much like them are roaming all around the casino, checking hundreds of games to find just one that's left in a positive state.
Now, that's technically not illegal. Like what
No.
they're doing is technically a legal thing for them to do, right?
Absolutely. And
So,
it's also legal for casinos to kick out anyone for just about any reason they want.
this is going to be horrible. Is there anything they could do so they're not so they don't stand out so much to the casinos when they're doing this?
What I guess one thing you might do is just play a game once in a while that's maybe left in a marginal state, or maybe play a hand of video poker here and there. But most people don't do that. I mean, the casinos are already just full of vultures, and they know the casinos are not taking aggressive action yet, so why not just be aggressive about it?
Okay. Should we see if anyone has an answer to the trivia?
Okay.
Is it the night?
In particular, what kind of what night?
Ooh, so if you know Mo the cat, put that in the chat. Douglas suggested it might be his wife.
Okay.
I love that. So if you know Mo the cat, put it in the chat. And while we were waiting for
in other words, it's either the white knight or the black knight.
Okay. So while we were waiting, I get a question. Heather's nice fancy hairstyle, is it inspired by anything in particular? If you could see it. Real quick, this is funny. This came about because I can't do hairstyles. I am really horrible when it comes to doing hairstyles. So my hairstylist taught me how to do a hairstyle, and I fucked it up. Oh, excuse me. I am so sorry. I messed it up and I can't do that hairstyle right. So this is the hairstyle that comes about doing that, and it looks decent enough that I just wear it as a hairstyle. but basically this is me not being able to do hair. So just
I
worked
like
out.
it when you do the braids.
Well, thank you. I'll do that on the next one. I appreciate that. Okay, so now back to real questions. This is more of a statement. Mike Fixes Things said that the game he is working on is a new table game, and it's bouncing around 4%, the 4% house edge. Do you have anything on your website or on your forum that talks about like steps that new table game inventors could do that might help them in this process?
I have my 10 commandments for table game inventors, and I talk about this topic a lot on my forum, but just in miscellaneous places. My forum is a good place where game inventors can explain their game and ask for comments, in which case I would be happy to provide them, as well as many other people.
That's awesome.
And by the way, I think 4% is a pretty good number.
Yeah. Okay, so our next one comes from HM. According to VP trainers, I am playing just over 99% correctly for a 9-6 jacks or better. Is there a calculation on how much of the 99.54% I am losing with playing just under 1% of the hands incorrectly?
Yeah, it's kind of a good question that I don't have an instant answer to, but I would like to think that most errors of players that are at least trying to play properly are probably in marginal hands to begin with. So let's say that your average error is costing you 1%, and you're making an error 1% of the time, then that's only costing you 1 in 10,000. In other words, for every $10,000 you bet, your mistakes will cost you $1, or in other words, 0.01%. So that would lower the 99.54 to 99.53. Now, it could be, though, that maybe your average error is costing you more than 1%. I would need to know more about your play to give a better answer.
Okay. Now, we have 8 more minutes left of this live stream. So if you guys have any questions, now's the time to get them in. Jim answered for Mo the Cat. Mo the Cat did answer, but Jim got it first. Jim says, is it the White Knight?
Yes, it is the White Knight.
Woo! Very nice. And I just have to point out, Mo the Cat did get it too, and he did spell it correctly.
Okay, well, I think that's all the rabbit trivia I have.
I have a rabbit trivia.
Okay.
What is the name of a 90s movie that uses the white rabbit to go down the rabbit hole for a technological wonderland?
Was it Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Nope.
Okay, well, that's all I got.
It'd probably help if I could say technology. Sometimes I just can't say words.
Can you say 11 benevolent elephants really fast?
11 benevolent elephants, 11 benevolent elephants, 11 benevolent elephants, 11 benevolent elephants.
That's pretty good.
Yay.
Yeah, that's better than I did.
Do you ever do the Woody or...
How much wood would woodchuck?
Yes. A woodchuck would chuck as much wood as a woodchuck could if a woodchuck could chuck wood, but a woodchuck can't chuck wood. So therefore, a woodchuck would chuck as much wood as a woodchuck could if a woodchuck could chuck wood.
That's not my answer, but I liked yours.
Thank you.
My
I have fun with those.
A woodchuck would chuck as much as he could chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood.
While we're thinking about this, if you guys have a tongue twister you want us to say, put it in the chat real quick. This is fun. Okay, so while we are waiting, we have another casino question from P. Fenny Black. I hope I said that right. My slot vulture Easter egg hunt method is to look for my lucky machine, which has some money left on it, and just make one bet. It's an advantage, right? Yeah, kind of an advantage, yeah.
Well, I see you're saying that the machine has money left on it. So that's like a free roll. Just bet the money that's on it, and you have a huge advantage. However, I would say that that's stealing. And if you did that in my casino, I would at least kick you out and maybe even have you arrested.
What? Which
Yeah,
lost
because
money on it?
those credits don't belong to him. And
Oh, but what casinos would do that?
no,
I
I've
can't
seen this
imagine.
happen before I even got into this crazy business. One time I went to Las Vegas with a friend, and I knew enough to play the 10-7 double bonus game at the Four Queens. And so I told my friend, let's play this game. It has a player advantage. And that was the time when points were worth 0.5% too. So it was a respectable game, and it was within my budget at the time. And so we were playing it for a while. And then my friend said, I have to go to the bathroom, watch my machine. So I said, sure. And while he was gone, I was so absorbed in the game that some other guy came down and played my friend's machine. And he played like one hand, which lost, and then he hit the cash out button. And this was and those machines had the actual coins. And suddenly I hear all these coins clanging in the hopper. So I turn around and I say, what are you doing? You know, that's not your machine. And then my friend comes back and he starts kicking up a fuss. And then security comes over with all this commotion. And the security guard listens to both versions. And this thief says to the casino security that he didn't know that there were already credits on the machine. Or no, wait a minute. I think he may have like put in $1 and then made a $5 bet and then withdrew much more than like over $100.
Wow.
And the security director, and there were a lot of other security guards milling around too, escorted him right to the door. And I presume that he probably got trespassed. And good for the Four Queens for doing that. I would have done exactly the same thing.
Oh, wow. That must have been something.
I have no sympathy when it comes to thieves.
Yeah.
Okay,
No.
well, why don't I show you guys how to do the magic trick, okay?
Before we do that, the
Okay.
answer to the trivia question was the Matrix, which Rob got correctly. Congratulations. It was the Matrix.
Yay, Rob.
And then, yes, so we are doing the trick. Okay, go for it. Have fun.
Okay, so as you see, I wrote down the numbers from 1 to 9. And with your prediction, it's always going to be 165. You just have to remember that number. And when you write down the numbers from 1 to 9, you have to group them into 3 specific groups. You try to make it look random, but every group must add to 15. And I just have memorized that one of them is 3, 5, 7. Just remember that it's the 3 middle odd numbers, not including 1 and 9. So there's 1. And I don't know if this is going to help most people, but here in Las Vegas, there's a Chinese grocery store called 168, which is kind of like a play on words in Chinese. So you just have to remember 168 as well. Whatever helps you memorize that is fine. And I don't need to remember these because by the time I remove the 357 and the 168, only the 249 are left. So let me illustrate that they all, this is right, that this adds up to 15, this adds up to 15, and this adds up to 15. If you don't do it this way, it's not going to work. Then you can truly let 2 people pick the numbers, any 2 piles they wish. It doesn't matter. And then with the one that doesn't get picked, you just throw that one away. And then you truly can always emphasize, read them in any order you wish. And then write them down in the order that they say. And then do the other person, creating 2 3-digit numbers like this. So what's going to always happen is the ones position is always going to add to 15, and the tens position is always going to add to 15. So when you add up the ones position, you put a 5 here and you carry the 1, and then the tens position is going to add up to 15, plus the 1 from the ones position, so you get 16. So it's just mathematical that you always get 165, no matter how the numbers, no matter what order the numbers are written down.
Wow, that's
And
amazing.
there you go. That is a great trick.
That is so cool. I love your magic tricks.
Thank
They're
you.
just so
And
much
fair
fun.
warning, maybe 1 person in 10 is going to figure out how you did it, and then good for them. But be happy for the 9 people that were impressed and got entertainment value out of the trick.
When you're doing a magic trick for a group of people, how often does someone actually say, "Hey, I know how that trick is done"?
A lot.
Oh, really?
And I would like to think that I have some smart friends, so this happens a lot. Like when I went to the Mensa convention last year, I didn't know a soul going, so I tried to make friends by doing magic tricks in the like the common room where everyone ate, and they were a tough bunch to impress with magic. But nevertheless, it helped me find ways of doing my magic tricks better. And but if someone does a magic trick for you and you know how they did it, don't be the savant in the room saying to everyone else who saw it at the same time, "Oh, I know how you did that. You did it like this, and that. And furthermore, I could do it better myself." No, just let the rest of the audience enjoy it. And if you must, quietly approach the magician after the trick and say, "With that trick you just did you do it such and such a way?" And I'm sure the magician will say, "Yes, I did." If you're right, and I think that he will be thankful that you didn't ruin the whole trick for the rest of the audience by being a smart ass and spurting out how you think he did it. Which, to be honest, I find that really annoying when people do that. It's very annoying. I really have strong feelings about that.
Real quick, besides the magic trick, how else was the Mensa convention? What did you guys do and talk about? What was that like?
Yeah, I could talk about that for a while, but to try to keep it short, this was the annual Mensa convention. It was held in Reno last year, and it was over 4 days. And the way it works is all the meals were one price, gave you all the meals for free, and it was all buffet style. And they rented out like the whole second floor of the Sparks Nugget. So not only there was tons of convention space, and there was a whole big room full of board games. And but during the day there was a schedule, and at any given time there were probably like 8 different talks you could go to, and the talks covered everything from science to the English language, to I wish I had my program with me. I tended to go to some of the talks that were about the English language, like the origin of words and the etymology of things and things like that. There was a guy that did many of these talks named David Lederer, who is the father of Howard Lederer and Annie Duke.
Ooh.
Very smart guy. And he has written a whole bunch of books. I bought a bunch of them there, and I've enjoyed every one of them so far. So big shout out to David Lederer, if I'm remembering his name correctly. And there were also social things at night. Like one night was a dance. I can't remember what happened other nights. But I did not. The number of people that I knew there was 0. So, and Mensa is the kind of thing that people that are in it, most people just get really passionate about it, and they have been going to these AGs, annual gatherings, for years and years, and so they have their whole circle of friends. So I was, to be honest, very lonely. I mean, people were nice to me, but did I make any friends? No. Despite, I think, a pretty good effort. And will I be going back? No, unless somebody who I know from outside, from anywhere, goes with me.
I'll go.
Are you in Mensa?
They don't know that.
They will know that.
You have to actually give them your Mensa score to get in?
You have to apply to get in Mensa, and they're going to ask to see your IQ, a what's the word, a authoritative document that shows you have an IQ over 130. And they're very picky about what counts as evidence of that. There's only certain testers that they accept an IQ test from.
I did an IQ test.
Let's just take the test, and I'm sure you'll pass it easily, and then let's go. The next one will be in Baltimore, 2023.
The last Mensa test I took, I think I was 21, 19, 20. I was in college, and they did that, and I was 115, I think it was.
There's I think, a pretty big standard deviation with those test results, so maybe you'll do better next time. And to be perfectly honest, I didn't think I would pass. I do not have the best of memory, and the test I took was very memory intensive. Like, the proctor would say like 10 words, and then you had to recite them back in the same order. I'm just not good at things like that.
Okay. I would imagine you would be with your brain.
I'd like to think I'm smarter than the average bear, and I think that I'm good if like the proctor would put out puzzle pieces and he would say, make this shape. I'm good at stuff like that, but spatial reasoning things. But I think I'm just average in terms of memorizing sequences of numbers and things like that.
Okay. Now we are way over 4 o'clock. When is the next time we are going to do a AMA live stream?
How about Groundhog Day, February 2nd?
Sounds good. So if we didn't get to your question today, please come back on February 2nd and ask the question then. The sooner you get your question in, the more likely it is we will be able to answer it. If you see the notification saying we're going to have an AMA, you can always come in before we start and then put your question in. So that way we definitely get to your question during that AMA.
Yep. So thanks, everyone, for participating. Thanks, Heather, for producing the show. And again, happy Chinese New Year, everybody.
It's always my pleasure. And happy Lunar New Year. I hope you guys have a great one.
Okay. Awesome. Bye, everyone.
See you next time.